For years, getting a new drug approved felt like running a marathon. Uphill, so many hurdles, timelines stretching out forever. But what if there was a fast lane, like really fast, for drugs tackling the biggest health issues? Well, on June 17th, 2025, the FDA basically launched one. It's the new Commissioner's National Priority Voucher Program, the CNPV. And this isn't just some minor rule change. It could be a real game changer, especially if you're investing in biotech. So today, we're going to really dig into this. We'll unpack how the CNPV works, who's eligible, what the strategic value actually is, and we're going to zero in on one company in particular, Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals. Their RNAi platform is pretty advanced. We want to explore how the CNPV might impact their late-stage stuff, like Plozasiran, and maybe just as importantly, their partnership deals.
Yeah, it's really interesting because this signals a very proactive FDA. They're not just waiting around. They're actively trying to boost innovation, get crucial medicines to patients faster. It could genuinely, reshape the whole landscape.
Okay, let's unpack it then. What is this CNPV program? Fundamentally, it's a voucher, right? To speed things up for drugs targeting national health priorities.
That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
But the acceleration we're talking about is, well, it's kind of mind-blowing. Imagine getting a drug reviewed in maybe 1 to 2 months after you submit everything.
1 to 2 months. Compared to what, the usual 10 or 12?
Exactly. Or even the 6 months you get with existing priority reviews.
Yes.
It's a massive difference. We're talking potentially years shaved off the total development time in some cases.
Wow. How do they even manage that kind of speed?
They're using this multidisciplinary approach. They call it a tumor board style review. Yeah. So picture experts from all the different FDA offices, clinical and manufacturing, stats, you name it all, convening in one focused session. They hash it out together, make a decision quickly. Cuts out months of back and forth.
That collaborative review sounds incredibly efficient. You almost wonder why it's not standard practice, right? But besides pure speed, what else does it offer? I heard something about pre-submission.
You did. And that's another huge operational benefit. Sponsors can submit really critical parts, like the CMC section, that's chemistry, manufacturing, and controls.
Right, the technical stuff.
Yeah, the technical backbone. And draft labeling, too. They can submit that at least 60 days before the final data package.
Okay, so the FDA gets a head start on reviewing key pieces.
Precisely. It allows for early feedback, ironing out kinks before the main review clock even starts. Plus, the program mandates enhanced, timely, frequent communication. That constant dialogue helps resolve potential issues much faster than the usual formal exchanges.
So operationally, it's a big win, but let's talk value. Those traditional priority review vouchers, PRVs, they get sold for insane amounts, right? Like hundreds of millions.
Oh, yeah. Back in, I think it was 2013, one sold for $350 million. They became this really hot commodity, a tradable asset.
But this CNPV, it's different. It's non-transferable, generally.
That's the critical difference. You can't sell the CNPV voucher itself to another company. Its value isn't a line item you can cash in directly. It's purely operational. The value comes from getting your drug to market months, maybe almost a year earlier.
So the value is baked into the product's life cycle, not the voucher itself.
Exactly. Now, it does stay with the product, even if the company gets acquired, and there's a time limit. You have to use it within 2 years. But yeah, fundamentally different from a PRV.
Okay, so who qualifies for this express lane? What counts as a national priority? It sounds a bit broad.
It is quite broad, intentionally so, I think. The FDA lists things like addressing current health crises, meeting significant unmet public health needs, delivering more innovative cures for Americans, and interestingly, increasing domestic drug manufacturing for national security.
That last one seems particularly relevant these days.
Definitely. And because these criteria are broad, maybe a little subjective, it's not just about having the data.
You need a story.
You need a compelling narrative. Companies have to proactively articulate how their drug, uniquely and substantially, hits one or more of these priorities. Robust evidence, yes, but wrapped in a persuasive case.
And it's for drugs only, right? Not devices.
Correct. Drugs across any therapeutic area, but specifically not devices or those combination drug-device products.
And it's starting as a pilot program? Just for a year?
That's right. A 1-year pilot starting in 2025. And they've indicated only a limited number of vouchers will be issued initially.
So Highly competitive. You need to be ready to make your case and make it well right from the start.
Absolutely. Immediate, focused, strategic action is key for companies that think they qualify.
Which brings us to Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals. Given everything we've discussed, the criteria, the benefits, why do they seem like such a potentially strong fit for this CNPV program?
Well, first, there's their core technology, that targeted RNAi molecule platform, the TRiM platform. It's designed to, silence specific genes causing diseases. It's inherently innovative.
Targeting disease at the genetic source.
Exactly. And their whole mission aligns with addressing significant unmet needs. Plus, they have this ambitious goal, 20 products in the clinic or market by 2025. That drive fits the spirit of accelerating innovation.
Okay, let's look at specifics in their pipeline. Plozasiran, that's the one for high triglycerides, SHTG, and also FCS, right? Familial chylomicronemia syndrome.
That's right. And focusing on FCS is key here for the CNPV discussion.
Why FCS specifically?
Because FCS is this rare, severe genetic disorder. Patients have incredibly high triglycerides, constant risk of acute pancreatitis, which can be fatal. And crucially,
no FDA-approved treatment in the U.S.?
Bingo. Waylivra is approved in Europe, but it hit safety roadblocks here. So there's a massive unmet need. Plozasiran works differently, targeting apolipoprotein CTS. It's a novel approach.
So clear unmet need, innovative mechanism sounds like a good fit. What about the timing?
The timing. Phase 3 studies are estimated to wrap up around October 2026.
So likely too late for the 2025 pilot phase.
Probably. But if the CNPV program gets extended, and many expect it might, Plozasiran becomes a prime candidate down the line. It's definitely one they should be preparing.
Okay, a potential future play. What about candidates that might fit the pilot window better? Anything earlier stage but still compelling?
Absolutely. Look at ARO-RAGE. It's in phase 1/2A development.
That's for inflammatory lung diseases like severe asthma.
Yes, including severe asthma. And despite existing treatments, many severe asthma patients still struggle with symptoms, exacerbations. There's a real unmet need there for something new. ARO-RAGE targets the receptor for advanced glycation end products, RAGE. It's a completely different mechanism, aiming to interrupt the inflammatory cascade way upstream.
Innovative approach again.
Very much so. Early data looks promising, reducing RAGE without messing with lung function. So you have both innovation and unmet need. That could definitely tick the CNPV boxes.
And then there are the partnerships, especially the big one with Sarepta. How do those factor in?
That Sarepta collaboration is huge. It covers several programs for rare, serious diseases. Take ARO-DUX4.
That's for FSHD, the muscular dystrophy.
Right, facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy type 1. It's progressive, disabling, and again.
No approved treatments to stop the muscle wasting.
Exactly. A profound unmet need. That makes ARO-DUX4, even in phase 1/2, a very strong contender conceptually for CNPV eligibility via Sarepta's application. And there are others with Sarepta 2, ARO-DM1 for myotonic dystrophy, ARO-MMP7 for IPF, ARO-ATXN2 for a type of ataxia, plus preclinical stuff like Huntington's. Many of these neurological and rare diseases just scream unmet need.
Okay, so the pipeline alignment seems clear across multiple candidates, both wholly owned and partnered. What about that other criterion, domestic manufacturing and national security?
This is where Arrowhead might have another distinct advantage. Under that Sarepta deal, Arrowhead isn't just licensing the tech. They're responsible for manufacturing the clinical supply for all the partnered programs.
All of them?
Yep. And the commercial supply for the 4 currently in clinical trials. That's a significant domestic manufacturing footprint they're building.
And that ties directly into the CNPV's goal of boosting U.S.-based production.
Directly. The government wants to reduce reliance on foreign pharma manufacturing. It's seen as a national security issue. Building new plants takes years, 5 to 10 easily. So Arrowhead having these capabilities now is highly valuable.
So if one of their drugs, maybe made for Sarepta, gets deemed a critical medicine and it's made here,
it becomes a very, very strong candidate for a CNPV under that specific criterion. It adds a whole other dimension to their eligibility argument.
Okay, so the potential fit seems strong. How does Arrowhead actually leverage this strategically? It's more than just filling out an application, right?
Oh, absolutely. It has to be integrated across the company, regulatory, R&D, business development. The most obvious benefit is accelerating their own drugs, getting something like ARO-RAGE to market, say, 8-10 months faster.
That must have a huge impact on the financials, the NPV, ROI.
Huge. We're talking potentially hundreds of millions, maybe even billions, in extra discounted revenue over the drug's life just by starting sales earlier. It also cuts down that risky period waiting for FDA approval. Less time at risk.
And competitive advantage, first to market.
Crucial. especially in crowded fields or areas with emerging competition. For AR-RAGE in severe asthma, being first with a novel mechanism thanks to a CNPV, that could mean grabbing significant market share right away, establishing leadership.
Plus the operational efficiencies you mentioned earlier, better communication pre-submission.
Right, it just smooths out that final regulatory sprint, saves internal resources, helps get ahead of potential problems.
Yeah, back to the partnerships. If the voucher isn't sellable, how does it sweeten the deal for, say, Sarepta?
It's not about selling the voucher to Sarepta. It's about what the voucher does for the partnered product. If Arrowhead helps secure a CNPV for ARO-DUX4, Sarepta gets that drug to FSHD patients much faster. That means revenue for Sarepta starts sooner.
And for Arrowhead?
Earlier milestone payments, earlier royalties. It accelerates the return for both partners. It aligns them operationally and financially, even without a direct voucher sale.
Okay, so it enhances existing deals. What about new partnerships?
It becomes a major differentiator. Imagine Arrowhead talking to potential partners. Not only do we have this great RNAi tech, but we have candidates that might qualify for the fastest FDA review possible.
It makes them a more attractive partner.
Definitely. It's a powerful deal sweetener, even if it's not cash. It signals alignment with FDA priorities and a potential fast track. And don't forget the manufacturing angle. That domestic capacity could open doors for strategic alliances, maybe even government collaborations focused on reshoring critical drug production.
So multiple strategic angles. Given the limited spots in the pilot, what does Arrowhead need to do now to maximize their chances?
Proactive engagement is key. They need to be talking to the FDA early and often, expressing interest, discussing candidates, getting guidance on how to best demonstrate alignment.
Laying the groundwork.
Exactly. And ensuring their data packages, especially clinical and CMC, are absolutely rock solid, pristine, well organized. Any gaps or ambiguities could completely undermine the speed advantage.
You need everything buttoned up before you even apply.
Precisely. And they need that compelling narrative we talked about. Quantify the unmet need, clearly articulate the innovation, make the case for national impact. Internally, they need to be ready too. A dedicated team, streamlined processes to handle that super fast review pace. Commercial teams need to be ready to launch potentially much earlier than planned.
It sounds like a major organizational effort, but with a potentially massive payoff.
It really is.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The big picture here is that this new FDA CNPV program, it's a significant opportunity for a company like Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals. Even though the voucher itself can't be sold like a traditional PRV, the operational benefits that incredibly fast 1-2 month review are huge. Better NTV, less risk, a real competitive jump.
And Arrowhead seems particularly well aligned. Their pipeline hits those unmet need and innovation criteria hard. Think FCS, FSHD, severe asthma. Plus, their domestic manufacturing capability is a distinct advantage for that national security angle. It signals alignment with FDA priorities in a way that could really resonate.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the CNPV and what it could mean for Arrowhead. This new CNPV program from the FDA is a potential game changer with its incredibly fast review times. It's reshaping the regulatory landscape. And for a company like Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals, their pipeline, focusing on those RNAi therapies for serious unmet needs, plus their existing domestic manufacturing, it all seems to strongly align with what the CNPV program is looking for. This could translate into real strategic and financial wins for them, boosting that NPV, giving them a competitive edge.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. As the CNPV program potentially moves beyond the pilot phase, how might it change how you evaluate biotech investments? Will you start prioritizing not just the science, but also how well a company aligns with these national health priorities? How important does domestic manufacturing resilience become in your investment thesis? It's a potential shift in what defines a premium biotech asset. What does that mean for your future strategy?
Definitely something to chew on. Really fascinating developments. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive today. As always, we encourage you to continue your own deep dives into these critical topics. Until next time.